Hello and welcome back to the Marketing Brief podcast. I am your host, Brian Aquan. And of course, this is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything involving marketing. We've been doing these social fabric sessions recently, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest today, who's a founder of the Social Fabric, AJ Vernet, longtime friend and colleague. Welcome into the podcast.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, AJ. How would you, you have lived many lives. You are a pro surfer. How would you introduce yourself to the listeners of the podcast?
I do have a love of outdoor sports as well as we've bonded over that many times. So I would introduce myself as somebody asked me my superpower the other day. I'm a connector. One of the reasons we kind of got into the social fabric was over the course of my 30-year career, I've just been connecting the dots on businesses, places, things, people, and doing majority of that. That, however, led me to my career in advertising. And when I introduce my work self, I'm really a business development entrepreneur who can build up and stand up businesses inside organizations or do partnerships in deals. And also goes to, you got to be a good connector.
Yeah. You've done that successfully over and over and over again. I've seen that. You're now the founder of the Social Fabric. So why now? Why the Social Fabric? Why did you start this?
Because my friend and colleague told me it was a great idea, Corey Trefaletti. No, I started it right now because I started to see a problem that even people like myself who are extremely extroverted and out and about were having a hard time meeting people in this new world, right? After COVID, everything's changed. You went fully online and now we're swinging back a little bit in this hybrid world. And I started to see that a lot of friends and family and colleagues and folks were having a hard time expanding their network. And some of the online things that were happening, like LinkedIn and others, were just becoming so crowded and people were ignoring them because there was too much noise. And some of the other advertising groups were really so transactional. And when we started to construct what would the social fabric be, it was more about getting people like you and I together and getting to know each other. Sure, at some point there's going to be a transaction, but the social fabrics modus operandum is really executives in real life, getting people outdoors, doing things together and learning more about each other. Hopefully that bonding then leads to something work-wise, a connection, a new job, a deal, a partnership, a biz dev, connection that happens around a brand and a talent. Creator economy. So that was the sole purpose of it. We launched it and realized we needed to have like an online component. So we have this wonderful WhatsApp group, which you're a part of as well. And, we have an online community of about close to 300 plus people in the first 6 months of this, which is really great. We did the standard things that a lot of others are doing, which is informative newsletter but if you read our content, it's all about getting people out in real life. We're sticking with that and to focus on getting to know each other instead of saying, well, I sell media and I buy media. And can you hit my YouTube, number that I need to hit in order for me to buy with you? Like ECPM. No, I haven't sold media for a long time. You can tell.
This idea of networking, I tend to think of most things on a spectrum. There are people who are very, very good at networking. And then there are people who seemingly can't figure it out. And of course, everybody else falls along the spectrum. What do you think is an issue for some people with networking? Like, why can't they get it? We just talked about maybe trying to be more transactional. I think that's part of it. Are there other challenges you think that individuals have with networking in a traditional sense?
Yeah, I think one of the things I got frustrated is I show up to I'm not going to name the organization, but like a local event in Los Angeles. And you can tell if I'm not a brand marketer, all those salespeople are just hunting for that one person. Well, imagine, or you go to a big conference like Possible and you see someone like, I saw Allison Gifford, I think, speak once at an event from State Farm. And at the end of the day, I saw like 20 people line up to talk to her. And they all just wanted to introduce themselves really quickly and say hi. And it was at a brand storytelling event. She was at Sunday. And they just lined up. And do you think that's working? She's not relaxed. Nope. That person is not relaxed at all. And then on LinkedIn, how many people, my CMO friends tell me they don't even go on anymore. unless it's to scroll the news. They don't answer anything. So there's a lot of noise. So how do you get to know, someone like State Farm's needs? How do you
Mhm.
get to know what makes them tick? If they're having a good day, a bad day, what their problems are. You got to do those in a more quieter setting. This goes back to your question. We need to create those environments, right? And there's only so much time in the day, and some of the best business relationships I have been teaching somebody how to surf or hanging out with somebody and going with snowboarding with you and just learning a little bit more about what you're working on when you worked at POW, and then understanding pain points and then saying to them, hey, I might know a friend that has a solution, or I might have a solution. And I think those little moments compound. And I don't think a lot of people right now, I mean, a lot of my friends, they're stuck in their kitchen table. They're stuck inside their LinkedIn and social world, and it's not big enough. They're not expanding it. And that's what I think the crux of the problem is. I think the second thing you have is you have a lot of people getting laid off and traditional jobs changing. And that's due to AI and a myriad of other things, the way media climate's shifting and stuff like that, and biz dev and things going global. And their networks are too small. Like I know somebody who's on like their 17th interview at an entertainment company, but
Wow.
there's probably 1,100 people going after that same job. I'm like, how, like you have to expand. So a lot of people are going to expand their careers, their shift, their verticals and everything. And that is why we created the social fabric to help with that.
Yeah.
Because, if you're only talking to the same 5 people, it doesn't compound.
Yeah.
So then going out to networking events, I seem like one of the most extroverted person I've been told that, and I'm not, I'm constantly like, I think I was telling you this earlier. Like I'm constantly referencing Dale Carnegie's thing he wrote 100 years ago on how to win friends and influence people. I'm looking for the common thread. Like, oh, I love that ocean background picture you got there. I surf. Do you surf? And trying to find that icebreaker that allows us to, drop our cortisol levels and just relax for a minute, shoot the shit, talk, and then move on. Yeah, eventually it all has to track back to how do we earn a living? Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you just make a lifelong friend. I believe I've got actually more of those from the industry than I do transactions, but I don't know if she's ever going to listen to this. But my friend Shannon Light, literally, we did a deal with Nike and for her creators years ago. And I've known her and pitched her for like 8 years. And we became friends and drank wine and we grew up and, we ended up in Napa. And one day she was working for Nike and I just presented a product, an idea. I said, hey, I need some help, but here's my idea. And she's like, oh my God, it only took 8 years. Your idea finally works. Let's do this. And dropped like $500,000 in my pocket so I could do a Snapchat campaign with like
Nice.
Logan Paul and all them. But my point is it wasn't pitching for 8 years. It was
Right.
talking for eight
Right.
years. And that compounds. And eventually all the stars align. I think people have to get back to that. That is sales, business development, marketing, all of it. It's like you have to have all these little awkward conversations, and you have to be able to get to know somebody and what they really want and need, right? And maybe you can then solve that problem, and maybe not. Maybe somebody else can.
Yeah.
That's the essence of networking. That's why we go to Possible Can, Brand Innovators, Brand Storytelling, Sundance, all these different events to try and meet people. But the problem is a lot of people walk in to these events. They've paid $3,000 or $4,000 to go. There's hundreds of people in a room and they don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big problem,
That
right?
happens
It's
a
just
lot.
silly. Or they talk to 10 people over the course of 3 days, and those were 10 people. But actually, I shouldn't say that. There's no wrong 10 people. They talked to 10 people, right? But maybe they wanted to talk to 30, or maybe they needed to whittle it down to like, how do I know who my people are,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of people that need help with that. It really is like I hear Gary Vee talk about this, like, but a lot of people get stuck in their online world, their Zoom world, and it's not big enough to accomplish what they need to accomplish in this day and age. And that is the essence of what we're creating with the social fabric. Is all about bringing executives in real life together and helping them get to know each other, and something good will come out of that. I
It,
believe that
it,
100%.
yeah. It always does. And that's something we've been exploring on these social fabric sessions is that relationships shape opportunity. And that's really what we want to create with the social fabric is more opportunity for people. Once they create those relationships, now you can see the opportunities are kind of coming to you. It doesn't come from starting a transactional relationship. It comes from understanding who it is you're talking to, how to get to know them, how to like,
Yeah.
function within a community, right? No one goes to a party and screams out that they have a sponsorship opportunity, right? You
Some
go in
people.
and
Some
some
people do.
people do. Those people don't get invited back, but you go in and you meet people and you start to connect with them, right? And then you connect with them on a personal level, and then maybe there's an opportunity there, right? So just it's the intention of trying to connect with people rather than trying to sell people that I think trips people up about networking sometimes. But you brought up the in real life aspect of this, which is amazing. That's what we want to do, right? We want to get people away from their screens like this and get into real life and connecting with each other. I guess that brings us to chapters. So we're rolling out chapters starting next month. Can you talk about, what the chapters are, what they mean, how people get involved?
Yeah. So the social fabric, for anybody listening that hasn't gone onto our website and signed up, it's completely free. You do not need to pay us anything to become a member. The chapters were something that I kind of saw a friend, Ken Seaton, who's doing something amazing with this thing called the Athletes Touch, which is all former pro and D1 athletes that are getting together locally and networking. So similar, right? But they're all lots of business. The only key thing is you had to be a former pro athlete or a college athlete. So that's the group's criteria. Ours is like marketing tech entrepreneur essence, advertising based. And these people were so happy. And they, that in that instance, they do pay a membership fee, but they were using their networks and in deals and great things were happening and the camaraderie in that. And I saw these people smile and flourish. And I was like, I want that for me. The social fabric, one thing I'll say, this is the first time I ever said, I'm just creating something for no other reason, not monetary gain, nothing, because I wanted it. I want to be able to network with people and I want to find more people like me, right? Like that I can do things with. And so chapters just made sense is to go local. We'll have this national, layer with our WhatsApp and our newsletter and comms and marketing and all the great podcasting stuff that you're doing. We want to expose our members and we want to, shine lights on them so other people can say, hey, I like that. I want to meet that person.
Right.
And then we want to help with connectivity. But locally, everybody needs help. I give you back my I got inspired, and I think you've been, and we'll go together in September when we launch the first one. But Scott Donaldson and my friend Kirsten Ludwig, they do this breakfast meetup, which somebody else in the East Coast actually inspired them. And I was like, this is awesome. And I met there was no specific target. So it's marketers, entrepreneurs, health coaches, everything. And I met some great people out of it. And I just had such a pleasant time and it was super easy. It was show up at 8:30 at Zinc. Well, and people network. And I met 30, 40 great people. I talk to all these people now and I enjoy going back. And I think that plus the WhatsApp, which I was inspired by Stellar Humans, my friend Shannon Pruitt, who's like awesome. Her and Stephen Wolf Perry put together this group of, super marketers in advertising that just for pure purposes of getting to know each other, right? And those two things kind of collided at the same time that we launched this in January while you and I were skiing in Japan
Exactly.
and bonding over sushi and great snow. And essentially I realized that those tools right there were going to help people. They were going to be able to ask a question. They were going to ask for advice. They could go meet up for a drink or coffee, and there didn't need to be any sponsored element. It didn't need to be any paid medium, and that was going to help people grow their networks. And if you feel stuck, you'll have a community to help you. Giving back. I always say we should give more than we take. 100%. Like it just comes back in spades. So essentially, the chapters are a local way of connecting and feeling connected to a community. And my goal is, we grow them to every chapter is a couple hundred people. There's a monthly meetup that happens and getting the community and sharing resources. And for the social fabric, we'll build out a total infrastructure behind to make sure people are able to show up and able to access information, meet other members, all of that. So it's pretty exciting. And then eventually we're playing around with the idea of slipping in AI into helping people like myself or you who sometimes are introverted, and I have not mastered Dale Carnegie's rule of how to win friends and influence people, but I do remember reading it from my first boss gave it to me. And I remember the things like, look around the person's room that you're in and notice the paintings and try and talk about things that are personal
Right.
to them. I think people need help with that. So when I say slip in AI, I think it means to help you find the people that you should be talking to, that you'd have the most match with. Where that goes, we'll see. That's really early days, but essentially chapters are next, and we'll launch third week of September. 5 cities: New York, San Francisco, Phoenix, Chicago, Los Angeles to start. And we'll go as big as we can. And, it could end up being 10 people meeting for coffee. Could be 100. We don't know. It's exciting. I want to go to all of them. Like,
And you
that's
should.
one day.
Yeah, I can tell you from my experience going to Scott Donaldson's breakfast, very low stakes, right? It's just people grabbing their coffee, right? Some people might stay for 10 minutes. Some people stay for 45 minutes. I would go there with my laptop and then maybe do some work afterwards, but it's kind of engage as you want to, right? And I sometimes can get psyched out about that. I'm like, oh my God, who am I going to talk to? I don't know any of these people. But I found it very easy to talk to people once you're engaging them, and everyone was really open to kind of talking. And like you said,
Yeah.
there's no agenda there. People aren't selling you. People aren't selling. It's really just about getting to know everyone in this community, but on a more personal level than we would get in a 30-minute meeting or a 15-minute introduction to someone. You really have the time to kind of figure out what people are doing with their time, with their families, out and about. And I really love that. I really love that about it.
I do too. And yeah, we need more of that. If
Yeah,
you
we
did
do.
that every day, you'd be exponentially happier, actually.
Yeah.
It's proven that interacting with other humans is good. And that's the purpose here. And to give people ways to do that in more frequency. I think there's some stat that says like a lot of people, depression is going up because people are like stuck at home and they're just on devices and they're not like getting that energy. I know that me personally, while I'm somewhat awkward sometimes when I'm out there, like my cup actually fills up, my battery charges when I interact with real people in life. So
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm the opposite. Mine depletes.
My wife too. She's like, no.
That's great. And I love the idea of, you've got to give a little more than you take, maybe a lot more than you take because it comes back to you. One thing I've been asking people in these interviews is, why were you part of the social fabric? Is there something you think you can get from it? But also, is there something you think you can give to it? And that brings me to the point of like, we have a lot of professionals here on the marketing side, on the sales side, researchers. Like there are people all around our industry that are part of the social fabric. And that's a reason. The reason is to help each other, right? To support each other in kind of what we're going through. So that was the other thing I wanted to get to with you is like, how can people use us as resources within the social fabric?
I think people are somewhat fearful sometimes of just asking for help, right? But I do see people on the chat like, does anybody know anybody here?
Right.
I'm trying to make this happen. Does anybody have any ideas?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be anything. And I think that's what it'll eventually become. The first 100 people were Corey and myself and a few other friends, right? That we told about. And then the next 200 were associates and that people saw every time you put up a podcast or something like that. They came in and they were like, and I don't think they quite understand it. I think people still think the social fabric is more like a traditional pay to play transactional event, which is something I've told you before. It's like, we actually want to, if you're going to CES, if you're going to Cannes, if you're going to wherever, doesn't matter the event. We're eventually going to point people in a direction and help them network and meet up and get what they need. As we mature as an organization, we'll build out a structure so that people can have resources and find a job or,
Yeah. And I even see the opportunity as like a pregame, right? Like a preparation for going to CES, a preparation for going to Cannes, right? Can we all get on a call and talk about, hey, what's the environment going to be like? Like, what's the best way to interact with people when you're at this event? Because we've got people who have been to it for numbers of years that have kind of navigated and they have that knowledge to share.
And that's a key point. I really always forget that part is sharing knowledge. Like, what's the best party I need to get on? How do I get on a list? Like, that's the point of this networking is sharing. I think about the future. I think about the future of my kids and other people's kids, your child, right? If
Mhm.
they choose to come into this industry, how are they going to learn? It's going to be totally
Yeah.
different. One of the things we're playing around with is an under 25 membership mentor
Mhm.
program. So now that the infrastructure is sort of built, we're like, how do we do that? And randomly, so the other part of the social fabric with executives in real life plays to some of my experiential strengths, which is like throwing a taco tour or taking people surfing or going skiing for a weekend and like
Yes.
taking smaller groups to spend more time together. And we do a bunch of that. We did a taco tour in Austin at last year's South by. Relatively new idea where we go to 4 or 5 different cool places in Austin during the festival for an afternoon. And somehow our invite, which was sort of private to our network, got out and we had like 100 college kids try and crash taco tour. And they were coming from, because we knew they were educational emails. So like, we're like, how is Tulane and all these people getting us? And somebody had put it on a college blog and they all tried to register. And we ended up getting a few of them before we figured out what was going on, like that showed up and tried to jump on. And we let them jump on. And they hung out with there's like 27 of us. And we went on this bus that we rented. And we went from Michelin star taco stop to Michelin star taco shop to a happy hour. It was so much fun. And I met all these new people. The point I was saying is it kind of was like, all these college kids were thirsty for knowledge. They all wanted
Yeah.
to network with us. I do some stuff here in LA and the LMU kids, they host and work and they just want to learn and they're going to have a harder time breaking into the industry. They're going to have a harder time learning protocol, networking, Rolodex building because they're not all going to be in an office all day long like we did when we
Yeah.
came up. And that's a real problem. I know a lot of people are building tools to solve that,
Mhm.
but like, what about the in real life portion of that? So
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. And I think some of this that we're building is to help my kids, your kids in the future, because I think there's a real component to that. Where it ends up, I'm not quite sure yet, but it was validated
Mhm.
organically. And you can't like 108 people, I could dismiss that.
Right.
100 people from like 30 different colleges,
Yeah.
that's something
This is
interesting.
something.
Yeah. And maybe that's a way to help our youth get a better job and be more successful, you know?
Yeah. Mentoring is very rewarding as well. I find it very rewarding to kind of help people. I'm at the stage of my career where I want to see people succeed and kind of navigate it. I can help them with what I've stumbled on and what I've learned so far, and they're going to have their own challenges. But I always get a great deal of gratitude. It feels good to
Yeah.
be able to mentor someone and kind of show them a little bit of a path.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I realize at my age that my superpower is connecting people. I realize
Yeah.
that I have such a big network because I've done so many art entrepreneurial things over the last 20 years that have led me all around the world, working for the World Surf League or Seismic or Google or DoubleClick, etc. And building divisions and being the biz dev guy who was always at the tip of the spear. So I had to go in the room first, figure out the product, sell it, etc. In doing that, I had this wonderful gift that was given to me. I got to work with teams all over the world. I got to work on different types of projects and industries and verticals. So I was constantly learning and then teaching because in order to pull something off, I had to learn it, become somewhat of an expert at it, figure out how to scale it and operationalize it, and then basically teach everybody else how to do it so I can move on. That's biz dev, essentially. And so I didn't realize I became a teacher along the way.
Yep.
And as I became a parent and started to grow up and get rid of the selfish side of me and become more of like the dad, AJ, so
Yeah.
old these days.
Yeah.
I realized that teaching and giving back is the best reward. It
Yeah. It
is
really is.
yeah. So
That's great.
these are the things that kind of have provoked all of this. And as the journey continues, and we're on here month 8 of the social fabric, it's relatively new. It's growing rather quickly, and we're going to launch our first summit in January, which we're going to keep a little secret for now, and then we're going to be doing some dinner meetups in all of the cities, and then we're working on expanding over the pond and in Asia as well. And it's like really exciting time because the thing I think about, and if I could leave it with one thread, is like all of this is going to be done in real life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
That's an
know?
important component. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to be done in a way that it's very inclusive instead of exclusive. There'll be criteria, right? We can't just have anybody come in and we definitely, I learned this phrase from a guy named Frank Chung, who's a former CAA guy. He does this thing called the FMC Collective, he inspires me. He's nice people only, NPOs.
It's
That's
good.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that we're filtering out
Nice
the
people only.
people. That will be something we do diligently because it's
That's a good through line. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for spending time with me here on the podcast and talking about the origins of the social fabric and the future and the chapters. It's been really exciting to hear about.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you for all you do for us because I love these podcasts. I love
Yeah.
like hearing about all the members and like all the fun things and the unique spin on it. So I couldn't be more appreciative of you, buddy. So
Awesome.
you
Love
appreciate it.
doing it. Yeah, we're going to keep doing it. Cool. And to all the listeners out there, stay curious, find your community.
Later.